On today's video, we're going to be looking at the top 10 reasons why living in California sucks. Before we start today's video, I want to do an exercise with you guys to clarify your perspective a little bit. Every state highlighted in red has a higher drug overdose death rate than California. On the East Coast, only the state of Georgia has a lower drug overdose death rate, and not by much. Before we talk about the real reasons that living in California sucks, I want to clarify exactly a lot of the misinformation that's being put out there with real and undisputable analytics. If you live in one of the states on this list, your state has a higher homicide rate than California. When you combine all the metrics of health, only Hawaii, Washington, and Minnesota have a higher life expectancy than California. So if you live in Louisiana, Alabama, West Virginia, or some other horrible state, please shut your mouth during this video. We don't want to hear your uneducated, stupid opinion based off of what you've been hearing on Fox News. We're not here on this channel to fight your little culture war. We're here to educate people who are moving so they can have a better idea of what these places are like. So if you want to argue about politics, please go watch a Jason Aldean music video instead, and you can argue about politics in his comment section. It'll be more appreciated than here on my channel. In fact, on this particular video, if you start to talk about politics, I'm going to deport your comment. Here on my channel, my audience is educated, smart, and we have real life conversations. So if you go in the comment section talking about, they took my dime. Oh man, that took a dime. We ran out of coal. There's so much inflation right now. Just look at my belly is imploded. I was at the Walmart the other day and I ran into this guy from Mayaka City. They don't have a Walmart out there, so they come to our Walmart here in the suburbs. And the guy's like, there's so much inflation right now. And I looked at him and I said, the only thing inflated around here is your pot belly, man. How did you get so fat? I was like, man, you really ought to be worried about why your belly's inflated and not the economy. Because pretty sure your belly is going to kill you first. Number 1 is genderification. California is as passionate about their genders as Alabama is about racism. I met a young man in Santa Cruz, California, who told me that he was leaving the state soon. He has younger children and they're in school, and he just doesn't like the garbage they're teaching in the school system. And he wasn't some right-wing nut. He was just an average dude with a normal family concerned about what the schools were teaching. He wasn't watching Fox News. He hadn't been brainwashed by anybody. He just genuinely thought that what was going on here with the schools was not what he wanted for his family. Now, he has never been out east, so I explained to him the reality of living out east, how there's more drugs, how there's higher homicide rates, how there's more crime in general, how you're going to have a lower life expectancy, and how states like Florida are doing exactly the same thing. They're indoctrinating the children just with another ball of garbage ideology. So just like California's indoctrinating their kids, well, the state of Florida is doing the same exact thing, but in a different direction. I really think in his particular case, and for the reasons he was leaving California, it made a lot of sense to do so, especially since he had children. He understood that the grass really wasn't greener on the other side, but in his particular circumstance, leaving the state of California was the right thing to do. And then you got the people that want you to role play with them based on their gender, and it really becomes frustrating to deal with them because they almost expect you to role play with them, and I ain't got time for that crap. Number 2, the high cost of living in California is absolutely insane. Now, renting has become almost as bad as Florida. Yes, I know I said that backwards for a reason. Buying real estate in California is absolutely a monstrous endeavor. You're going to be paying prices for real estate that make absolutely no sense. If California had like Florida or Georgia prices, it would hands down have 80 million people living there. So it does help to keep the population in check. Let's be honest, if California's real estate prices were on par with other states that are more reasonable, it wouldn't matter how crappy their politics were. People would be moving here by the handful simply because of the state's natural beauty, perfect weather, and great diversity of people. Number 3 is the homeless population. Now don't get me wrong, other states have this problem as well, and it's starting to become as relevant in other states like Florida as it is in California. Has literally nothing to do with politics. The weather and the state's high cost of living are much more of a contributing factor. And states like Florida are definitely lying about their homeless population. For example, the state of Florida is claiming that they only have 30,000 homeless people. That number is realistically 100,000. Part of that 30,000 is 188 people in Manatee County where I currently live. Now I've talked to the people who manage the shelters and other places that help the homeless here in my county, and they're telling me that they're helping over 2,000 people. So we can clearly see how states like Florida are lying about their homeless population. You're not going to set up a homeless tent outside of a downtown in Florida because the state laws don't allow that. But there's another complex understanding of this situation, that the homeless population in California is somewhat there by choice, not by necessity. The real problem in California is the sheer number of people that are homeless, but if you look at their living conditions and their overall health, it really isn't as bad in other states. In other words, it isn't a complete zombie apocalypse like what you have in Florida. You got a lot of young people, what I would call book baggers. Because of the state's perfect weather, it almost lends itself really well to people living on the streets, while living homeless in other states like Florida would be much more difficult. States like Wisconsin offer great services to the homeless, but who the crap wants to be homeless in Wisconsin? The sheer number of California's homeless population is definitely noticeable, it's definitely concerning, and it's possibly one of the biggest problems with living in this state. And again, we have a lot of misinformation about the real reasons why California has a homeless problem. I think we're seeing an uprise in homelessness evenly throughout the United States, and a lot of states like Texas and Florida and Tennessee are on their way to being California soon, despite the fact that their politics are completely different. People just want to blame everything on politics because they're that narrow-minded, but I've really tried to understand the real causes of why California has a bigger homeless problem, and clearly the cost of real estate combined with the perfect weather. And if you were to ask these homeless people in California what state they originated from, you would have a much better picture of the real reason people end up on the streets. California, man. Leave it up to California to be California. No me estás agitando, bro. What is that, bro? For real. Number 4 is bathrooms. And it has nothing to do with the genderification, and has more to do with the large homeless population. It seems like California is a very inconvenient place to have a butthole. If you are traveling through this state, you'll notice that not just in the big cities, but even in small rural communities, something as simple as using a public bathroom is too much to ask. You're in California, why are you getting upset? That's the way this place works. Hey ma'am, I'm buying gasoline. Can we use the bathrooms?
I'm sorry, we don't have public restrooms.
Okay, we'll get gasoline somewhere else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Okay, gasoline somewhere else. I don't want your money.
Yeah.
You gotta understand, kid, they have a lot of homeless people here, so they're not gonna just let you use the bathroom.
It's ridiculous.
That's California. What do you think you are, dude? Get gas somewhere else.
How's it ridiculous?
You're in California. It's crazy to think that a state has made just incredible strides in high life expectancy, low murder rates, low overdose death rates, yet they can't figure out that people need to be able to use a public bathroom. And going back to our gender-neutral restrooms, you'll notice that the sinks were outside in the open. That is to keep homeless people from showering inside of the bathroom stalls. So while very progressive on the gender side of things, in the practicality you have taken a leap 400 years backwards. I'm not even sure why these are stainless steel prison type bathroom stalls, but again, it probably has something to do with the fact that if there's water inside the toilet, then they could also just wash their clothes and shower with the water from the toilet, which means that they have to have prison type bathrooms outside of a freaking park next to some sea lions. It's really perplexing to see how it's just a beautiful state with high incomes and so many great things going for it, yet it's difficult to find a freaking public bathroom to take a crap after eating Taco Bell. I mean, when you take all that into consideration, it's understandable why people are having to poop on the streets out here. And let me just be clear, that's not a unique problem to California. Here in Bradenton, Florida, where I currently live, I recently discovered, I kid you not, the whole corner, that's just a pile of human feces with 2 needles in it, y'all. This is Bradenton. Look, y'all, this is Bradenton. That is literally a pile of feces. Oh, there's 3 needles. You see the orange cap right there? Cap, needles. What the crap, bro? At least they're not using their poop to hold up their needles in California like they are here in Bradenton. Number 5 is parking. Something as simple as finding a parking space is difficult in the state of California, and I'm not just talking about the large cities. It seems like everywhere you go in California, there simply are not enough parking spaces. To the point where it's almost frustrating to go out and do stuff because you spend more time looking for a parking space or end up having to pay for parking. I've never seen a state that's more complicated than California to get a parking spot. It's kind of a minor inconvenience, but after a while it does get annoying that it doesn't seem like you can find a parking spot anywhere in this dang state. And if you do find a parking spot, the chances that you're going to have to pay for it are somewhat extraordinarily high. Seems like nothing is free in California, not even parking. What's more capitalistic than charging you for everything, including things that should probably be free like parking? Now, as you guys know, I was born in Cuba, which is a communist country, and I laugh every time I hear dumb Americans say things like, California's a bunch of time. But in reality, California is the absolute epitome of what capitalism is, where absolutely nothing is free, and then it has to be paid for at an exorbitantly high price. If anything, California is the most capitalistic place I've ever seen, where even parking your dang car comes with a price tag. I mean, if you think about it, what's more capitalistic than charging you for something that should probably be free? And then the people leaving California are leaving with millions of dollars because their property appreciated so much. They'll be able to buy a bigger house in another state and still have hundreds of thousands of dollars left over. When we left Cuba, the Cuban government kept 5 houses that my family owned. I'm just letting you guys know this, so when you talk to a Cuban or Vietnamese or somebody who's actually lived under a communist regime, you don't sound like a complete moron talking to them about things that they're not going to ever correct you about. They're just going to sit there and smile, but deep down they know you're a complete moron for repeating just stupidity. I mean, if you look at the facts, the cost of living and the extraordinarily high incomes and how everything is charged for exorbitantly, California is the most capitalistic place in America. Core principles of communism is making sure that everybody has a home, so how could the state with the largest homeless population be the most communist? If free housing is a core principle of that ideology, and again, we're not getting into politics, I'm just letting you guys know these things so you don't sound like a complete idiot when you talk to somebody who's actually lived in a country like that, like myself. Number 6 is the unbearable traffic in most of the large cities. If you've lived in the East Coast, you might have been stuck in traffic in New York City. Bless your heart, you have no idea how bad traffic gets in Los Angeles. If you end up living in South Central Los Angeles at 6 p.m. in the afternoon, the entire city is gridlocked, and I mean in a way you've never seen anywhere. After all, it is the biggest state by population, and with a lot of rugged terrain, it forces the population course to be all around large cities, and that makes for horrendous traffic. Number 7 is gangs. The state of California is known to have a lot of gangs. Before moving to California, you might want to do your research and understand exactly what neighborhood you're going to be moving into and what particular problems that area is having, because gangs are just part of the culture in this state. And even small towns are gonna have this problem, so make sure you really do your research. Don't just assume because it looks like a really pretty area that there aren't gonna be neighborhood gangs causing trouble. Number 8 is fake people. The vanity in California is unreal, especially if you end up in a larger metropolitan area. From wearing expensive clothing brands to the cars they drive and the way people go about themselves, there really are some stuck-up snobs in California. So if you're a down-to-earth person and what brands you wear or how expensive your outfit is really doesn't matter to you, you might have a difficult time fitting in California, where vanity is the order of the day. When I say people are fake out here, I mean like people are really fake. Like they actually have fake body parts. When it comes to personal appearance, people here, they go a little bit too far and they probably spend more money than is reasonably possible. And hey, to each their own. Personally, I prefer people that are more genuine, but this is the way people are over here. I'm not criticizing, I'm just warning you. Well, when it comes to those big fat sausage looking lips, I guess I am criticizing that part. I saw a blonde lady that looked like she had 2 sausages across her face and it made her cheeks have an allergic reaction. Number 9 and number 10, I don't know. This has been difficult because I can't come up with 10 things that I didn't like about California. So how about this? Let me let you guys, the audience, the people who have actually lived in California. So before you comment for number 9 and number 10, you have to be specific. I lived in this part of California for so long. I want to know that you actually lived in California before you comment on 9 and 10. I don't want somebody in Alabama like, well, your governor sucks. Like, shut up, your governor's 95 years old. If you actually live in California, I will allow you to come up with number 9 and number 10. Because frankly, I haven't lived in California to know everything there is to know about living in this state. I've heard for some people taxes are unbearable, but I'll tell you this, you do reap the rewards of having taxes. States that don't have taxes have a lot of problems that California simply doesn't. And you know, governors don't get to be governors for life unless they're in Alabama. For the most part, that's a rotating thing. So let me hear something that really genuinely sucks about living in California. So if you live in this state, let me know. What are the other 2 things that really suck about this state? Could it be the wildfires? Could it be the taxes? Let me hear from somebody who actually lives in California. I know it's crazy that I couldn't come up with 10 things that I genuinely felt like I could stand behind for California, but from my experiences there, those are definitely the top 10 things, or 8 things, that I found the state of California definitely could improve on. And the last question for today, if you know what town we're driving through right now, it's a small little town in California. No cheating by Google Maps. If you actually know where it is, let me know. I know some of you guys are going to cheat, but at the end of the day, the final question for us is, where are we finishing today's video? What is this small little town we're in? Let me know in the comments. I look forward to seeing you guys' comments on the videos. Every time that I publish a video, within the first hour or 2, I go right back to the comments to see what the feedback is from you guys. So don't stay quietly in the comments section. Say something. Let me know what you think about today's video.